Here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, in the bottom left-hand corner from Alpha X, it's Classic. And in the top right, from Team Liquid, HARSTEM. My morning voice is starting to go away. It's finally fading. But yeah, HARSTEM. Woo! I am excited. You guys didn't get to see it, but HARSTEM, you'll probably see it on the thumbnail of this video, actually. HARSTEM, though, the picture that he submitted for WTL is the most HARSTEM thing I have ever seen in my life, and I love it so much. Just him with the sunglasses on, the finger guns, and he's got the Super Saiyan aura because last week he did 2-0 Gumiho, so he gets that little gold. I think the silver is if you go 1-1 and you win. You're the last match you played in. You get the silver kind of like aura of power. And then if you go 2-0 in your last matchup, then you go, or maybe, is that it? You know what? I am going to figure this out right now. Because HARSTEM did, oh no, HARSTEM got 2 2-0s. That's why. All right, so HARSTEM won his last 2 matchups. That's why he's got the gold border. Meanwhile, Ragnarok did get 1 2-0 and didn't play last week. So that's why he's currently sitting at only a silver, or that's why Ragnarok was sitting at a silver border. Which he did have in the last match. But HARSTEM isn't playing Ragnarok. No, he's playing Classic. And Classic... oh, man. I love Classic. It's really funny because Classic was one of those players that I started watching when I first was getting into StarCraft 2. I was like, the chin toss. Yes, that's a player I want to cheer for. And I was always very excited, but we are seeing some early stuff go on in this game, so enough talking, enough meandering, enough me just kind of rambling on about nonsense. We're on to Oblivion. This is a map that you have seen in GSL. It is from the Team Liquid map contest, and apparently a lot of tournament organizers have said, hey, this is a pretty decent map. We want to pick it up. Oh, Classic. Oh, Classic. Oh, no, Classic. Oh, he's giving me hope that he's taking it away. He's going to scout right around it. Oh, that is such a travesty. Because, I mean, it's so important for Classic to scout this. He went in, and I'll explain why Classic doing this. He went in, he saw that it is a high ground wall. He saw 2 gases. He's like, all right, HARSTEM, what are you doing? You're not planning to expand, excuse me. So you're doing something across the map. Because if you want to expand, you'd be putting that on the low ground. And it is, in fact, a proxy robo facility. And Classic has managed to scout almost every position but where the proxy robo is. Oh, this could be really rough here for Classic, but he is preparing properly, has the Nexus on the way. I believe it has a Stargate and is already starting up a Void Ray, which is absolutely the correct response if you expect your opponent is going to be aggressive and you want to go with the Stargate opening. And you can see that vision. Just so close. HARSTEM is going to be able to take down. That is 3 gate behind this. That's where it still starts to get a bit nerve-wracking here for Classic, is that this is going to be 3 gate Stalker. It's going to be headed straight on into the main. You have a Void Ray, you have a Stalker of your own. And the first push should be the easiest to defend here for Classic. This, this first little wave with the Adepts going on into the main, this should be the easiest part to defend if Classic is on top of it. Immediately goes for the Worker pull, only loses 1, 2 so far going down. That is it. The Shade completes and he pulls back on to the main base. So far, not a lot of damage. We'll lose 1 more probe for his trouble, but it's continued Void Ray production, and now Stalker's just on the way constantly from HARSTEM. He has cut his worker production at 23. Has 3 gates, a Warp Prism, and Stalkers, and this is where he wants to see how much damage he can get done. And, well, Void Rays are good, but Stalkers do quite a bit of damage to them. But HARSTEM, this is all in, mind you. He needs to end the game with this, because if he doesn't, Classic is on 2 bases already, can just macro up and just win the game in a macro scenario. So we'll see what HARSTEM can do here. It's a lot of Stalkers coming out from him. The army supply, though, only just slightly in his favor. Again, Classic has also been cutting workers and just completely committing to production. Oracle now on the way that will be able to tag up the army of HARSTEM with the Revelations as well as go across the map if HARSTEM commits super hard. You see here, Shades going to look to go on into the main, but they should not complete. And I love that Classic put down a second pylon there. It just means that even if HARSTEM snipes that front pylon, it's not going to depower either of those buildings. Classic. With the Oracle just looking around, making sure that the Warp Prism is not trying to ferry units into the main, but the Warp Prism doesn't need to do that because Blink is ready. I don't know if Classic's going to be ready for Blink. This is such a good timing here from HARSTEM, realizing he's not going to be able to get any damage done with just the straight up 3-gate, adds on the Twilight Council, goes for Blink. Oh, distracts Classic by sending a few Adepts on into the main, and is going, or into the natural, is now going to Blink on up. HARSTEM. This is a beautiful play here. He hasn't, I mean, there's just so many Stalkers. Oh! That trap does so much damage, but it doesn't matter. Void Rays are being focused on down. Probes are going to start to be killed. A great force field there to stop the Stalkers of Classic from moving up that ramp. And this Void Ray is trying to get damage done, but it can't do a lot. Shield Battery Overcharge finally used. The Void Ray is still just barely in range of it. I mean, oh, there's so many workers going down here for Classic, and he might just lose the Void Ray. He's out of Shield Battery range. Picks off the Warp Prism, though. The Blink back's coming out from HARSTEM, and he should be able to get the damage. Another Stasis Ward is going to go down, but it's not going to matter. HARSTEM doesn't need to mind because he's won the fight in the main, and there is not a lot left here for Classic, but it just barely ekes it out. I really thought that HARSTEM had enough there. HARSTEM had so many Stalkers, but Classic able to get the focus fire, able to hold on just barely with a few warp-ins. They come in clutch, but it's 7 workers for Classic. 23 for HARSTEM. And HARSTEM, he seemed a bit exasperated there, but he has to realize he's so far ahead now. He killed so many workers. Almost the entire mineral line for Classic went down. And sure, he hasn't been mining, but he's still on 23 workers. Observer's going to go on in. This Observer should tell HARSTEM just how good of a position he's in. The all-in, it got damage done. You see there, I mean, I love how expressive HARSTEM is. You see the eyebrow raise, and as he scouts the second base, he should realize, oh wait, I am very, very far ahead right now because there are just so few workers out for Classic, so few units. HARSTEM, I think, realizing that he's still very much in this game. Another stasis trap going to go on down. This time, the workers are going to be pulled. HARSTEM not going to fall prey to that trick again. Still has to be careful here. His army is not too much bigger than Classic's, and of course you do have that shield battery overcharge available, which, I mean, it did so much work in that last engagement. Sure, you know, HARSTEM ended up getting rid of the Void Rays, ended up killing a lot of Stalkers, but it delayed long enough for Classic, even though he pulled his workers, to get a few more warp-ins to start focus firing. But here we go. HARSTEM's blinking on in. The first few shots are good. The focus fire onto those weak Stalkers. He's split up Classic's army right now, but Classic's just going to corral him back. Gets another Stalker pick off. And one more almost goes down, but the blink backs are good. And HARSTEM here, I would love to see him just take a natural base. He has enough money, but he's just committed to this pressure. HARSTEM needs to try and win the game here is what he feels like. I don't know if that's correct, but he's going to have to commit to trying to win it here. Is nice pick off on the pylon at least, but again, Classic's been so good about building additional pylons, about making sure that he has backups just in case they go down. I mean, it's such an intense situation here because HARSTEM needs to micro this perfectly. He has so many units though. 15 Stalkers now, a Warp Prism to help out. But still, it's 11 Stalkers for Classic. He has enough to hold on. Like, it does. I don't think there's really much room for HARSTEM to get damage done here. The Observer is giving him vision, but still, Classic has enough. And I just don't. I think the window of time for this attack to work, for this pressure to work, has faded away. I think it has finally passed. And HARSTEM giving himself a bit of a chuckle. I think he realizes just how kind of ridiculous this dance is, as the first few blink ups, only 3 of his Stalkers get trapped in the stasis ward, and that's already a good start to this engagement. Oh, the force field goes down, but the Warp Prism goes down. HARSTEM, you can see, just not happy with this turn of events. Does have his Stalkers, though, who's going to come out of the stage trap. Oh, the one-shot's coming through, though, for HARSTEM. I think he found the damage. Even without the Warp Prism, there's not that many Stalkers left here for Classic, who's still on 16 workers, trying to micro back, but the one-shot's coming through. HARSTEM, has he finally done it? This has been 10 minutes of just constant back and forth with this 3-gate pressure. But HARSTEM, he's going to push up on into the main base. The blink back onto the Stalkers. Classic realizes that it's over. GG, HARSTEM finally gets a win. Oh my. Here we go. We're on to 2,000 atmospheres for game number 2 in the bottom left-hand corner from Alpha X. It's Classic. And in the top right from Team Liquid, it's HARSTEM. Did a little dance there at the end of game 1. And you do feel good after finally eking out that win. It was so close to just, you know, to the rush failing, to Classic being able to shut it down, but HARSTEM just barely gets enough damage, kills enough workers, and even though the pull ends up, you know, getting rid of HARSTEM's army, it's the follow-up that manages to do the damage. And now we'll see how they play out on 2,000 atmospheres, because that's definitely a build that you probably don't do again as HARSTEM, I'd imagine. But then again, it is HARSTEM, and there's absolutely a chance that he does just say, hey, let's do that again. Because HARSTEM's crazy like that. We will see, though. It does look like he's just going to be going for a standard scout right off the bat. I'm just on the regular timing to make sure that Classic isn't doing anything sneaky. Isn't trying to, you know, slot in a little bit of a proxy there or anything of that caliber. And does manage to see that, in fact, this is a completely standard opening from both of the players. Classic, going to scout around for a proxy. I think that's interesting. I don't think Classic actually has usually headed across the map. Well, yeah, he hasn't usually headed across the map. He's also placing down a hidden pylon, though. And maybe that is just to try and psych out HARSTEM, who I believe right now is still hanging around in the main base. He's going to be saying, wait a second, where's your second pylon? And, you know, there are a few times where you can expect him to say, all right, listen, I know that he's probably just hiding it to try and get me to respond to something. But again, after you just cheesed your opponent and gotten a pretty comfortable win from, or not a comfortable, and gotten a win from it, HARSTEM here might be just a bit worried that it is in fact going to be cheese from Classic. But I don't think that's the case. I think this is just a hidden pylon to try and psych HARSTEM out. And so far, looking like it might just be working. HARSTEM already into the Stargate. And that should mean that Classic has a bit of an earlier timing onto his natural base, which he should be putting down fairly soon. We'll see. I mean, the Stargate is always so weird, because it can get so much damage done with the early Oracle, and can also kind of be inconsequential if the opposing Protoss is ready. And then the Oracle's really just used for vision. As here we go. Classic is going to be pushing across the map here with 2 Stalkers and a probe. Also does have sentries that would be coming up behind this. And oh, that probe getting vision. HARSTEM pulls back very safely, though. As oh, the second Stalker. That could have been a big catch by Classic. Doesn't quite recognize it, though. And again, this is just a standard macro game. You have the Nexus coming down. It's going to be a little bit faster for Classic, and is in fact not even really getting into additional tech. It's going to be the Twilight Council for him. So, looking to go into a bit more of a gateway-based army. And HARSTEM moving across with the Oracle. Has a second in production, and once you have the second Oracle, of course, you will be able to one-shot probes. You don't have to worry about a shield battery. But as long as there's just one out, as long as Classic has a shield battery in the main, should not be any trouble. But, well, HARSTEM, he's just going to catch out these probes that are transferring, and there is no shield battery in the main. That's going to be 4 worker kills already, and the Oracle gets on out. I mean, absolutely a worthwhile investment there for HARSTEM. Second Oracle is out. A nice Phoenix scout by Classic. Hallucinates the Phoenix and now knows exactly all the tech that is there for HARSTEM. It's not too much. It is the Forge going down, additional Twilight Council, alongside the 2 gateways that you, of course, have to go early game in PvP. As Classic splitting up his units quite well. Doesn't want to take any more damage from the Oracles. Of course, did have a worker lead off of the earlier Nexus, but that has mostly been mitigated. And HARSTEM does find, in fact, the hidden pylon and says, ah, so that's what you were doing. Oh, the Shade actually completes. Classic was not on top of his own Shade to deny it, but doesn't look like it's going to really matter too much. Stalkers clean that all up. 3 workers go down to the double Oracle. But all in all, it's not been a ton of damage for HARSTEM. He's been committing very hard to this aggression, but luckily hasn't lost the Oracles. Only those 2 Adepts go down. It's a fine loss. HARSTEM will take it. He'll be absolutely okay with that. And if he's behind this, he's already got his 1-1 on the way, or his +1 on the way. And his Blink, it's going to be a little bit behind that of Classic. Of course, Classic did get the earlier Nexus, just has that slight tempo on the tech, which he's going to be trying to use to his advantage, but it's a 3-worker lead for HARSTEM and looks to be taking his 3rd base ahead of his opponent. And when it comes down to a completely standard macro PvP, that 3rd base timing is so important, as HARSTEM 4 health on that. Thought about going in, then decided, maybe not. And I do have to agree. Adept Shade going to be denied, and this has been, I mean, if you ever want to look at just standard Protoss builds, and you want to look, how do I do a macro PvP? Watch this game, because this is giving you 2 great examples. It's giving you a Stargate opening into a gateway transition, and it's giving you a straight gateway opening out of Classic. So anyone watching here wants to learn some great build orders, here you go. HARSTEM and Classic. Playing almost a completely passive game aside from the 2 Adepts that went in and died. Aside from workers, that's been the only loss that has been had. That's it. HARSTEM has lost 1 worker. Classic a bit more than that, I believe, sitting around 6 or 7. But it's been just a macro game thus far. Now Classic is going to try and look for an angle here to push on in. Doesn't have too much of a larger army. HARSTEM still has a lot to work with as, ooh, the Oracle trying to go on in. One of them finally gets sniped. The 3 workers go down as force fields. Trying to section off a lot of this army for HARSTEM. I don't know if Classic has enough. That's his last force field. 1 more that goes down finally to section off the armor, but Blink is going to be able to save a lot of those Stalkers as Adepts going on into the natural base. 4, 5. I mean, they should just be able to get more workers. There's not enough Stalkers here to really deny them. 7 going down. There should be an 8th at the very least. Never mind. HARSTEM able to deny that as Oracle going on in. There's no Stalkers at the 3rd, and this is trading blow for blow. HARSTEM coming out on top. That's the first time he's lost workers since the start of this game. And those early 2 Stalkers that went across the map for Classic isn't even going to lose the Oracle. And HARSTEM taking, I mean, a 15 supply lead. Adding on the DT Shrine. Classic matching that with a Twilight Council of his own. Or Templar Archives of his own. And 5 more gateways on the way for Classic. He's going into charge. He almost has charge ready. And Classic might be able to find a timing here. There's going to be a timing here where he has charge, where he has +2. And HARSTEM does not have his additional gateways. HARSTEM does not have either of those upgrades. And Classic also has the Warp Prison for reinforcements. This is very much looking like there could be a timing for Classic, but I don't know if he really realizes it. This game has been completely passive. I mean, just there's not been a lot of pushing out. And the one time that Classic did push out, HARSTEM absolutely had enough to defend it. But Classic is going to push now, and this is, again, this is the timing for him. Just warp in Zealots. He's going to have charge. He's going to have +2. HARSTEM will finally match it with his own. And HARSTEM's actually going for a counterattack. Classic's going to have to make a decision here. He's going to have to decide whether he wants to recall or just go for the base race. And it looks like Classic is going to say, all right, let's do it. And he's going to pull the trigger on going into the natural of his opponent. As here we go. Workers already being pulled by Classic to try and get some damage done. Stasis Sword only gets a single Stalker. The Blink on top of the shield battery. All of the tech here is going to go down for HARSTEM, who does not have charge just yet, but Stalker's making its way on into the main 18 workers already going down the picture-in-picture to show us what's going on, as it's quite a bit. DT's being warped in, though, from HARSTEM. And there has to be the recall here by Classic. Zealots warped in, though, to try and pounce on the Stalkers. A great blink back. And HARSTEM, once again, taking a better trade. 21 to 12 workers being killed. Wow, those Zealots, they got legs. There, she's running, and she's a track star. As here we go, chasing down the rest of the Stalker army. What does Classic have to see those Dark Templars? And Observer is finally on the way. But you also have Disruptors coming in production here for HARSTEM. He's got a 30 supply lead. Again, HARSTEM just eking out these small little leads here and there. It is so good to watch. It is so impressive. And now he's going to start doing a few DT run-bys. He's going to morph in an Archon, which will be able to tank up so much damage, but it's so many charge lots here from Classic. The Disruptor, though, could be absolutely massive if Classic is not ready for it. Already pulling back a few of his Zealots. Oh, the split is perfect. But still, there's so much here for HARSTEM. The charges go down. The Archon is still alive. The third base is denied mining. More Warpins coming in, and I mean, Classic, he needs to make it work here, but there's a DT wreaking absolute havoc onto his army. I think that HARSTEM has done it. This might just be the 2-0. HARSTEM, beautifully played PvP. And it looks like Classic is just going to dip down in supply. 97 to 40. GG! HARSTEM gets the 2-0.